everybody. Welcome back. I am so excited to be with you all. Welcome back to Keeping It Salty with Sharesse. This is the place where we, as brothers and sisters in Christ, all come together and walk out our Matthew 5:13 mission to be disciples of Jesus who influence the world for good. Because if not for good, then what good are we? Guys, we have made it. What have we made it to? Where have we made it to? We have made it to the 4th episode. Y'all, this is a big deal to me. Why is this such a big deal? Because I made a commitment to myself that I was going to record a minimum of 4 episodes a month. And this is the 4th episode for the month of February. And I am so excited. If I choose to do more, then that's great. But I said, if I'm going to do this podcast, then I'm going to do a minimum of 4 episodes a month. And so this is it. This is the 4th episode. Who knows if I do more per month, but I have met my goal of a minimum of 4 episodes. And I'm really excited about today's topic, but this has been really fun, just getting to kind of allow these episodes to kind of just flow and unfold and just kind of really just see where God is just kind of leading one conversation to the next. And so I am just really excited, and I'm excited for the months to come. I've got lots of ideas just kind of going in my mind already. And if you have got any ideas of things that you want to hear about, or, topics that you want to discuss, or, I'm open to even having other people on, just, shoot me some ideas. You can DM me on Instagram, you can message me on Facebook, or shoot me a text if you have my number. But yeah, I would love to know your feedback and things like that. But like I said, I am really excited about today's episode. By the title, if you see it, the title, I guess, of today's episode is What's in Your Hand? And I wrote a short little blog story about this some years ago, but it kind of goes along with explaining, I guess, in depth a little bit more, the whole idea behind the title of this podcast, the Keeping It Salty. What's the meaning behind the whole Keeping It Salty thing? Because when we were coming up with ideas for the name of the podcast, like I said, the whole salty and bright thing I've been doing for a while, just with my own clothes, I've got hats and I've got jackets and things like that. I've loved, the verses in Matthew 5. And so those were kind of just like a personal thing with me. And so I was like, well, I really like the idea of salt and light and things like this. And so I was just kind of tossing around some ideas with my name. And, I live in Florida. And so we had to be careful with the whole idea of, the Keeping It Salty thing, because that is a little bit of a Florida thing. And so we were like, okay, well, Keeping It Salty with Sharesse kind of loses the whole Florida thing. And then adding, the scripture reference definitely helped with that. But what was funny was back home in New Mexico, there was a women's group that met at our church, and they were like older women, kind of like a Titus woman kind of group, but they had for a season launched a small group, and they called themselves the Seasoned Moms. And basically they were just a group of older moms who really felt in their heart that they wanted to kind of like sow into some of us younger moms. This is when I was allowed to be in the younger moms group. Okay. When I was that age. And we kind of laughed at just a little bit. We laughed at the name of the group, the Seasoned Moms. We kind of jokingly called them the Spicy Moms, or sometimes we referred to them as the Salty Moms because they were the Seasoned Moms. And so then I kind of joked around like, well, should I call my podcast the Salty Mom podcast? But there actually is a podcast called that. And, I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into just speaking to moms. So we kind of nixed that. But anyway, none of that really stuck. Okay. We just stuck with, Keeping It Salty and tagged the scripture reference on there. And there you go. That's kind of how we came about it. But I want to go ahead. So far, I think I've read this verse on each episode, but I love this verse. And I feel like it's just a verse that we should all kind of be standing on as disciples of Jesus. Matthew chapter 5. Verses 13 and 14. I'm just going to read you verse 13, because that was kind of like the whole heart behind the title. So verse 13, Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, it says, I should honestly have this memorized by now, but you are the salt of the earth, but as salt has lost its taste, then how shall its saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. And I want to kind of jump down. In my Bible, I have this ESV study Bible. And guys, let me tell you something. This Bible has changed how I read the Bible. I absolutely love this Bible. If you're watching by video, I'm going to show you. This is the Bible. You see I got big duct tape like right down the spine of it because that's how much I use it. But I got this Bible at Bargain Box, and they give Bibles away for free. But I watched the Ali Beth Stuckey YouTube channel, and she was talking about this Bible, and so I knew I wanted to get my hands on it. And so when I saw it at the thrift store, I got it, and I love this Bible. But I like it because it's got, a little commentary at the bottom. And so the commentary notes about this verse in particular, it reads, as salt is beneficial in a number of ways, as a preservative, seasoning, etc., so are disciples of Jesus who influence the world for good. And so I kind of used part of that commentary as kind of like the tagline for this podcast. If not for good, then what good are we? As disciples, we are here to influence the world for good. We're useful for a whole lot of things, but mainly to influence the world for good. And so that's kind of how the title came about. But then, in coming up with this title, I made kind of like remember in elementary school when you were learning how to write papers and you had to kind of make the thought bubble and then you would kind of do the spider web thing to get all your ideas out. Then that kind of sent me on a whole path to unpacking like the biblical significance of salt. So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of what I kind of came up with, this deep dive into the biblical uses for salt. And a few of the uses that I came across was, number one, salt is used to preserve and to slow decay. All right, I think we're kind of aware of that in our modern day use of salt. It cannot cure anything, salt, all right? It's aseptic, it prevents infection, but it cannot cure anything, but it can stop the spread of an infection. I put a star by that. I really love that. It can't necessarily cure anything, but it can stop the spread of an infection. I thought that was really unique to the role of a disciple. The second use, this was really neat, and this was in the book of Leviticus. I was reading, and it said in Leviticus chapter 2, it tells about Moses and what he was kind of like, these laws and traditions and things he was giving to the Israelites. And he was telling the Israelites that they needed to add salt to their grain offerings that they were giving to the Lord. And it was through the salt that God reveals his indissoluble relationship with those he loves. And so salt was also used as a sign of friendship and covenant with God. And so Moses is telling the Israelites that this is something that they need to do as they're making these offerings to the Lord. And it's kind of like a covenant sign of friendship with the Lord. And then another use for salt is salt adds seasoning to things. It seasons things and it unlocks flavors of whatever it comes in contact with. It seasons and unlocks flavors. Too much salt, can be bad. We have all had food that has a little too much salt. All right. That can be bad for you. But just the right amount of salt creates an amazing experience, an amazing dining experience, right? Just the right amount. And then I put a star by this and I put, salt brings out the best in the foods that it is prepared with. I love that. Salt brings out the best in what it's prepared with. And our purpose or our mission, that's kind of what we've been talking about in these past episodes, is to bring about a taste of heaven to this earth wherever we go. I love that. Our purpose and our mission is to bring about a taste of heaven to this earth wherever we go. Does your life kind of like match up with some of these uses of salt? Does it preserve and slow down decay? Maybe you're not out here curing diseases or anything, but are you a person who can slow down the spread of negativity and infectious, conduct that's in your sphere of influence, your life, your circle? Are you that person? Or, how's your covenant relationship with God? Is it indissoluble? Are you a person who brings out the best in those that are around you? Do you leave a little taste of heaven wherever you go? These are some of the attributes of salt. All right. And so I just loved that. I loved doing that little deep dive, and it just made me appreciate the name of this podcast that much more. Okay. The Keeping It Salty. I want to make sure that every day that I wake up, am I being Sharesse and am I keeping it salty? And I just love that. Now I've kind of put it on some sweatshirts and a couple of hats too. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll start selling, merch and things like that. But, I want to make sure that I'm someone who is bringing out the best in people wherever I go, right? And this whole idea of keeping it salty to me means I want to live out my purpose in my own unique way. Okay. And I feel like that is something that God has definitely graced me with, is this kind of a uniqueness about me. Okay. I've always kind of marched to the beat of my own drum. And that is something that's really unique about salt. Salt pulls out specific flavors, okay, of whatever it's around and whatever it touches and whatever it comes in contact with. And I feel like that is kind of something that's always been kind of unique about me. All right. I have the ability to kind of see something and kind of turn it into something else, right? Take something that was meant for this and kind of breathe new life into it. Right. And that's just something I have done in many aspects of my life, my entire life. And so I have now kind of parlayed that into my mission and into my purpose of being a disciple of Jesus and being an ambassador for Christ. And I think that that is something that we can all apply to our lives, this idea of being salt here on the earth and this idea of doing it in our own unique way. But I think a lot of the times we make it a lot harder than what it has to be, right? Just walking out this walk in our everyday lives. What does that look like for you? We talked about that on the last podcast. God has called us all to something, but what does that look like for you just in your everyday? How are you living out your purpose in your everyday life? And what I mean when I say we make it harder than what it has to be is sometimes we try to be something or someone other than who we are. In the social media kind of sphere, they call that imposter syndrome, when you show up online trying to be something other than what other than who you are. And I have definitely found over the years, I think I shared on the first episode, that I've tried my hand at this whole blogging thing for a while. And I would notice whenever, especially when I would do like outfit of the day, explanations and rundowns. And if I would go to a store and I would do like a fashion haul or whatever I'd buy, and I'm talking about the things, I would get that real annoying like fashion blogger voice about like, hey guys, okay, outfit of the day. And it's so annoying. I'd go back and listen to my voice and I'm like, what am I saying? Even when I was doing this podcast, I told Donnie, I was like, I got to make sure that I don't start talking like a lot of these bloggers that you listen to. Bloggers. Why did I say bloggers? Podcasters that you listen to. Like, I want to make sure that I still just sound like myself. I want to sound like myself whenever I'm on my IG stories, when I'm just ranting and being silly in my car, right? I got to stay true to who I am. And I got to make sure that, yes, even though I am being influenced, okay, by other people, that I don't turn into somebody or something that I'm not. But it's a real easy thing for us to do, especially when you Surround yourself with a certain type of a certain group, it's real easy to start kind of acting like them and sounding like them. And, I'm from New Mexico, and I noticed a lot when I moved here. Well, I guess this is kind of still the South, but my in-laws are from the East Coast, and they kind of laugh at me sometimes because I say y'all so much. I didn't realize how often I say y'all, but I guess I say it a lot and I type it a lot. And so you just don't realize you start to take on these things from the people you're around, which isn't always a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when you're pretending to completely be someone that you're not. Okay. That's when it's a bad thing. And that can happen from viewing social media too much. Pinterest, okay, can turn us into somebody that we're not, have us out here trying to, do things that are above and beyond. I have shared that birthday parties are no longer about kids anymore. Okay. Birthday parties are now a flex. All right. To show who is the better mom. All right. Who are the better parents for sure. These mom play groups and social groups that we go to. I mean, talk about pressure. These women's Bible studies. Oh my goodness. Women's conferences. They are now fashion shows. Okay. It is like, it's the one day a week when these women actually get to get out of their house. They are getting dressed up to the nines. All right. And showing up in their best. Okay. For the one day a week that they get to get out. And it's tough. It is tough to just kind of, be yourself. And I'm not saying that that's not yourself, okay? Because I am one of those people who definitely love to dress up. But you want to just make sure you're being authentic to who you are, okay? And not feeling like you got to be somebody else or do something else that is not true to you, okay? I put on, my little notes right here. I put, it's one thing to be inspired, okay? And it's quite another to try to, replicate and duplicate somebody else's life. All right. God didn't call you to live somebody else's life. He calls you to live your life. He has equipped you and given you a specific set of skills, okay, and unique talents and gifts and abilities that are unique to you. All right. And you have got to sometimes spend some time with just you. Maybe some time in the mirror, maybe some time, with a journal and a notebook, and really sit down and explore and be like, God, what is it that you have gifted me with? What is unique about me? How do I think? How do I speak? How do I make people feel welcomed? How am I being salt in my everyday life? What can I do to bring out the best in other people? And then go from there. Spend that time in the secret place with the Lord, really finding out that what is it about you? What is so unique to you that can be used by God for his glory and his mission that he has you on, for his purposes, right? That only you can do. And I believe that there is that, but we gotta be true to who it is that God is calling us to be and not be out here trying to be like everybody else. And like I said, the temptation is real. I have fallen prey to it many, many times. And there have just been different seasons where I have shown up trying to fit in with everybody else. And then there's been seasons when I have been completely authentically me. And then I kind of settle somewhere in the middle. I mean, I love trends and things like that too. But then sometimes I'm like, I just need to be me. And some seasons me is wearing, rainbow and glitter and sparkles from head to toe. And then some seasons I just want to wear, all black and, draped in gold jewelry. And, I'm always going to be highly accessorized. Like, that's just me. But that's another conversation for another day. But like I said, God has equipped you with a specific set of gifts and abilities, and he wants you to reach whoever it is that he is setting in your path. And it's going to be done in a way that only you can do it. So stop worrying about, how everybody else is doing it, and stay true to who you are. Now, one of my favorite stories found in the Old Testament is a story of Moses. Okay, I'm gonna take you guys, we're gonna go to Exodus chapter 4. Okay, we're taking it way, 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 way back. All right, to Exodus 4. And it kind of goes to the title of today's podcast, so what's in your hand? And I'm gonna kind of give you bring you up to speed of what's happening here in the book of Exodus. And this is kind of taking place right after Moses has encountered God at the burning bush. Okay. And I love the story of the burning bush because I always say, especially when there's something difficult about to come up in my life, I always say, look, the only way that's going to happen is if God gives me a burning bush experience. Okay. I'm going to need a burning bush in order for me to be able to do that. And so I have yet to have a burning bush experience, but I'm just saying, if there's anything really difficult in my life, Lord, you are going to have to go set a bush on fire, all right, in front of me in order to get me to do some certain things. But like, move back to New Mexico. Sorry guys, I miss y'all, but but anyway, this is after Moses has had his encounter with God at the burning bush. And basically God is giving Moses like the rundown. This is what I need you to do. I have seen the affliction of my people, and you are going to be the one. I need you to go and tell them this is what you need to tell them. And Moses is like, they're not going to believe me. Who do I tell them sent me? And God's like, tell them I am. And then you're going to tell them all these other things, tell them who I am, tell them he's giving them the rundown. And Moses is like, these people are not gonna listen to me. This is unbelievable. No way. And so this is where we're kind of at right now, where Moses is given powerful signs. Okay. So Exodus chapter 4, I'm going to read you verses 1 and kind of see where we go from there. But it says, this is Exodus 4, verse 1. It says, then Moses answered, but behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice. For they will say, the Lord did not appear to you. Verse 2, the Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? He said, a staff. Here's verse 3. And he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses ran from it. Verse 4. But the Lord said to Moses, put your hand and catch it by the tail. So he put out his hand and caught it, and it became a staff in his hand. Verse 5. That they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. Guys, I love the verse right there. He said, what is that in your hand? Guys, so often when God is asking us to do something that seems so just out of character, something that seems so beyond what we think we can do, something that just seems really scary and unknown, something like a podcast, or, I want you to be bold and I want you to go and minister to these people, whatever, right? Whatever that mission is, whatever it is that he's calling you to, we come up with all these excuses as to why we can't do it or why somebody else might be better for it. Okay, I'm really good at that one. Lord, you got the wrong girl. Go get somebody else to do this. Someone who has better connections, someone who's looks better on paper than me, right? And I feel like a lot of the times the Lord will look at us and be like, but what do you have in your hand? We feel like we make all these excuses of what we don't have. And that's kind of what I get when I read this, God. And that's kind of like what it says in the commentary too at the bottom. It says the staff serves as a sign that God will be with Moses and bring about what he has promised through him. And then I'll tag on through him and what he has, right? God can work through you and what you have. What is in your hand? We're called to live this life, to be salt and to be light in this world, right? And we're called to do it each in our own individual ways. To me, that's what this whole keeping it salty life is all about, doing things in our own unique way. But a lot of times we get in our own way, making things harder or acting like we are somehow, without, because we don't have these things. Lord, I don't have the right, background. I don't come from the right family. I don't have the degrees. I don't have, I don't look good on paper. And then God comes in and he's like, but what do you have in your hand? What do you have? I can use that. I can use what you do have. And it's amazing when we can just offer to the Lord I know in this story, it's not like Moses was like, here, take all that I have. But Moses did respond, this is what I've got. And he was obedient. He did what, in this moment, he did what the Lord asked. And the Lord showed him, this is what I can do with what you have. And so I guess my question to you today is, what's in your hand? What do you have in your home? What do you have in your arsenal of talents and giftings and unique abilities that God can use? Okay, that only you possess, that God can use, that God can flow through to reach a multitude of people that maybe I can't reach, or so-and-so down the street can't reach, or your pastor can't reach, or somebody else in your sphere might not be able to reach, but you with your unique abilities and giftings can reach. What is it in your hand? This whole idea of what's in your hand kind of got started for me when I was young. I kind of look at this and I joke and I say I can make $1 out of 15 cents. I can take nothing and turn it into something. And it's a talent and a gift that I kind of feel like I have. All right. And it started when I was young. I grew up in a home for a lot of years with a single father. And, we had different people in our home, in and out. But for the majority of my upbringing, I had a single father. And, so that meant, what did that mean? I had a sister and I had a brother. And so we got a lot of hand-me-downs from people, in the church. They bring us clothes and things like that. And, kids just kind of being kids, they would see us wearing the clothes that they had given us. And I will never forget it. There was a girl in our church. She saw me wearing, I don't know if it was a shirt or a dress. It was something that was hers. And I know it came from them. And she was like, that's my shirt. And I was just like mortified, as a kid. And I knew from that moment on, whenever we got clothes from anyone else, I would do whatever I could to those clothes to make sure they did not look like the clothes that were given to us from whomever that gave them to us, right? I would cut the clothes, I would tie them up, I would restyle them in such a way that they did not look like somebody gave them to us secondhand, right? I have been making something out of nothing since I was a kid. I obviously, funds were tight growing up. And so I got a lot of shoes and stuff from like Payless and Walmart, my sneakers. And I went to a school though, in elementary and middle school with kids who had a lot more money than me. And so I would take my off-brand shoes and stuff and I would, get bottles of glitter nail polish and I would paint like the bottoms of my shoes, like all around the edges with like glitter nail polish. And I'd change out shoelaces. Like I would take cut fabric and put different shoelaces in them. And like just little things like that would make my stuff look one of a kind. Right. And I would do crazy things with my hair. I'd put like a bunch of barrettes and clips all in my hair and just things to kind of make me stand out that looked unique to kind of generate conversation. But also it was a little bit of a kind of defense mechanism too, just to kind of do that to kind of to keep kids from making fun of me. But also it was also my creativity kind of getting to be unleashed. It also gave me like ways to start conversation with people because they would see my clothes and, oh, that looks kind of cool. So it served a multitude of purposes, right? But for me, it was like, this is what's been given to me. So I'm going to work with what I've got because this is all I got. And I feel like that was God at a young age, just kind of starting that in me. And I feel like that has just been kind of like how he has used me my whole life. This is what you've got. What can you do with it? Right now, my lot in life is I'm in my home. So how can I do ministry and be here in my home? All right. I've got a really great home. I got a great space. When we moved here to Florida, I immediately told Donnie, the only way I'm moving to Florida is if you get me a house with a pool, because, at the time when we moved here, we had a daughter who was in high school and like, we don't know anybody in Florida, but I do know this, a pool will always attract teenagers to your house. And I don't want my daughter going to anybody else's house. So I want our house to be the house that kids will want to come to, right? What do we have? I want to keep my daughter safe. I want to invite kids over to our house. I want a house with a pool. So the house we rented had a pool. The house we bought has a pool, right? I'm going to bring the people to us. And that pool has served us well. We have been able to invite people from the church over to use that pool. That pool has been the epicenter of fellowship and birthday parties and all sorts of things, right? What do you have in your hand? Something as meaningless as a pool has served our community, has served our friends, has served our children well, right? What do you have in your hand that God can use and that God can flow through, or that you can offer as something to gather people together so that God can move through you, right? And you just got to ask the Lord to, like, show me, Lord, show me what is in my area that can be used for your glory. And he will show you, and kind of another issue that we kind of run into in this whole, trying to live our lives as salt and light in a creative and unique way, okay, with whatever resources we have around us. An issue we kind of might run into is like, okay, you found out these unique abilities that you have, and God has given you the mission and the marching orders to go be salt and light. But the problem might come in is, well, God, I want to do this, but I don't want to go minister there. Or I don't want to use my giftings. I don't want to be used here. I don't want to go and minister to those people. I don't want to minister to that group anymore. Isn't that crazy? To think that we actually try to tell God who we want to minister to and who we don't want to minister to. I got my hand raised. If you're not watching this, okay, if you're just listening, my hand is raised, okay, because I used to do that. For a while there. I was just like, God, I do not, I don't want to do kids ministry. I don't want to be pigeonholed. I don't want to just be the girl who can only talk about being a teen mom. I don't think I have ever really, I don't think I ever have. I don't think I have ever spoke to a group of parents about, the woes of teen pregnancy or anything like that. No one's ever asked me to, but I also haven't been like volunteering to do that either, even though I do feel like I could probably be a wealth of knowledge. But I have just kind of been like that sometimes. I know I used to be anti-mom groups, for a long time. And it's so funny how the Lord just turns those tables, isn't it? Because now I am like the queen of the play date. And my house is like Kid Central now. So it's funny. It's like, don't tell God what you won't do, because he will laugh and just turn it all around. And here we are, however many years later. But whenever that temptation comes up to try to tell God what I don't want to do and who I don't want to minister to, or what groups I don't want to be a part of, the story of Jonah, we just got through going through over it in church last month. And the story of Jonah comes to mind. And, he did not want to go and minister to the Ninevites. And he is a prophet. Like, that is his job, right? And he was so rebellious and disobedient and did not want to go minister to these people because he did not see them as worthy. They were bad people and he did not want to go. And he ran from God. He would rather die. He was just all of these things, just disobedient. Now he had to go through all of these trials, right? To ultimately go over there and do it is, sorry as it was that he did, but God was able to get the glory, even in his reluctancy, even in his disobedience, right? And it's so easy because a lot of times we want to minister to the easy people. We want to minister to the pretty people. We want to minister to those that make us comfortable. We want to minister to the groups that will give us the most shine. We want to minister to the big groups. We want to be on the big platform. We want to be where we'll get the most shine, right? I talked about that in my first episode. That's my personality naturally. I want the big and the wide and the shiny and the fast and where most eyes can see me. That is where my flesh naturally wants to go, right? My flesh wants to rebel and wants to run against the small and the slow and the unseen and the undesirable. But that is what I feel like the Lord wants the most. He wants us to surrender to the small, the unseen, the slow, the narrow, maybe the less desirable, right? Because those are his children too. Those are his people too. And they are just as worthy of, receiving ministry and being loved on as the beautiful people and the big crowds and the easy people to minister to, right? Guys, it's easy to minister to easy people. But God didn't call us to easy. God didn't call us to comfortable. Okay, God didn't call us to the beautiful and all of those things, but somewhere along the way we kind of thought that maybe that's what he did call us to. I don't know. John 16:33 says, in this world, you will have tribulation. I don't know where we get it twisted, thinking that this walk with Christ and this ministry thing and this whole, life as a disciple is somehow supposed to be easy and glamorous and pretty and comfortable, because it is not. It is not. God did not call us to that. He said, go into all of the world, not just the parts of the world that make you comfortable. If we say, Lord, use me, here's what's in my hand. I want to be used by you with everything that you've given me. Do we really mean that? Because he may send you to some not so beautiful places. He may send you to go minister to some people who are not so lovely, not so desirable, okay, to some unseen, unappreciated, okay, places. And will you still be so, Lord, use me? Will that enthusiasm still be there? Will it still be worth it? Is the slow and narrow path that we're called to, it might get difficult on that path. Will it still be worth it? I want to take you to the New Testament. We just read out of John. Now I want to read you something in the book of Acts. And, the rock star of the New Testament is Paul. Paul is just, wow, Paul. I love the story of Paul. And in this part of Acts, this is Acts 14:22, Paul has just been stoned, okay, for doing the Lord's work, okay? Talk about not glamorous, all right? Talk about undesirable, right? He's just been stoned and drug out of the city. And he comes back, all right, to the disciples. And this is 14:22 in Acts. And he's trying to encourage, okay, the disciples right now, after he has just been stoned pretty much to death. They thought he was dead. They drug him out of the city and thought that they left him for dead. He was not dead. But it says, strengthening the souls of the disciples and encouraging them to continue in the faith, and saying that through many tribulations, we must enter the kingdom of God. Guys, Paul has just gone through it. Okay? He has just gone through it. Most of us would quit and be like, I'm done with this. No way. But Paul endured and came back, not only just to continue on in his own ministry, he came back to encourage others to continue in the faith, and saying that through many tribulations, we must enter the kingdom of God. Through what? Many tribulations. Is it worth it to you? Is it worth it to you? If you say that, Lord, I want to be used by you in whatever way you have, set out for me. Lord, use me. Take all that I am. I am here to be salt and light. Lord, use me. Through the good, through the bad, I want to be used. Do you really? When it really gets down to it, and it's not glamorous, it's not pretty, it's not comfortable, when you feel persecuted on all sides, is it worth it? Will you be willing to endure the tribulations to enter the kingdom of God? So I'll ask you these questions as we close. Are you ready and willing to endure the hardship, kind of what I just said, to ensure that others will enter into the kingdom of God? Is it worth it to you? If so, what do you have in your hand? And how will you use it for God's glory? What is it that you've got just around? You don't have to go searching for it. You don't have to go and try to pretend to be somebody else or do it like somebody else. This podcast, I don't know. I am just figuring this out as I go, right? But this was just, I had a space, a lot of this equipment we already had. And I'm like, okay, God, this is what I've got in my hand. I've got the time. I've got the words. I got the ability to use my words. Lord, speak through me. And that's what I'm just kind of rolling with, as I come here and I sit in the cheetah chair, right? And I speak to you all. If it's worth it to you, what do you have in your hand? And how will you use it for God's glory? We don't have to make it that hard, guys. We really don't. It can be as simple as, hey, I've got coffee and some cookies in the pantry. Do you want to come over and chat? My kids are going crazy, but your kids can come over and go crazy with them. Let's talk. Most of the time, that's just what most of us just need, is just a place to talk. I have gotten to the point now, I don't even want to go out and meet people for coffee. I like inviting people over to my house for coffee. That's just like my love language. I love hosting people in my home. I am telling you, it means so much to me, not because I want to show off my home, but I have spent a lot of time cultivating these spaces in my home, and I love to share it with other people. I love to make people feel comfortable here at my house. It's one of my favorite things to do. And it's just, this is my happy place. I pray over this house all the time. And so, yeah, this is what's in my hand. God, what can I do with what I got here? I always got some sort of snacks, guys. All you got to do is cut them up real nice and stick them on a plate. People think you did like above and beyond. It's crazy. And some coffee. And just be there to listen. It's amazing. It's amazing how seen people feel when you just take that time. Next question. Are you living a salty life? Are you preserving what is good and slowing the spread of what is negative in your circle? Are you in a covenant friendship with the Lord? Do you have that indissoluble relationship with him? Are you spending time with the Lord in the secret place? Are you adding spice and bringing out the best in those who are around you? I sure hope you are. Do you leave a taste of heaven wherever you go? These are questions to ask yourself. Guys, remember, we are called to be salt and light and ambassadors for Christ wherever we go. And our role as disciples is to influence this world for good, because if not for good, then what good are we? Guys, it doesn't have to be that hard. All right. Ask the Lord to show you what is it that you have in your hands and how can you use it for his glory. And he will show you unique ways to use the resources that are around you, that in ways that only you can do it. Okay. Even if it's been done by somebody else before, there is just a uniqueness that only you can bring, okay, to the table. And that is a huge part of living this salty life, guys. And so I am just excited. I'm excited for how God is going to continue to kind of just show me ways that I can grow in my saltiness, okay? And how he can stretch me in looking around my everyday life and show me new ways to use the resources that he has so graciously blessed me with, okay? That I may in return bless other people with, right? We are blessed so that we can go out and bless other people. And it is just so neat to see how he can use what we have around us and what we're willing to offer to him, right? We got to offer it to the Lord. Lord, if it's my house, then here, Lord, I lay it at your feet. Use it how you see fit. If it's my voice, Lord, take my voice. May it be pleasing to you. If it's my time, if you've got financial resources, whatever it might be, Lord, this is what's in my hand. What can you do with it? And when we come from that heart posture, I feel like that's what the Lord wants. Just a willingness, a willing spirit, right? Just a vessel waiting to be used. But guys, I thank you for joining me today. We made it through the 4th episode. I'm really proud of myself for sticking with it, And I'm thankful that you came back just to enjoy another episode. And if you are finding value in this podcast, and then you know it'll bless somebody else, then I would just ask that you would please like, share, and subscribe. That way more people can find it, right? Leave us a review. Leave your comments, okay? Like I said, I'm open to feedback. And until next time, my friends, okay? Peace out and keep it salty. See you soon.